Alright, since we're going to be reviewing a movie about Santa Claus, it's only right I bust out my desk inflatable Santa. Let's plug him in and watch him rise.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
I like it. So with Violent Night, we follow Santa Claus, played by David Harbour, who is doing his usual rounds on Christmas Day, until he stumbles upon a rich family that is being held hostage for their money, forcing Santa to step in and make sure this family gets saved. That's all pretty much it. I'll give any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. Ever since I heard the premise of Violent Night, an R-rated action comedy starring David Harbour as Santa Claus, mixing that in with also seeing the first trailer that it was just going to be filled with a bunch of cheesy action movie lines, actually live up to its R-rated title of having over-the-top action with blood and gore, I became over the moon to see this, because don't get me wrong, I love me the family-friendly Christmas movies like Home Alone, but one of my go-tos around Christmas is also the movie Bad Santa, an R-rated Christmas movie. And we don't really get many of those unless they're horror movies, and well, those are kind of hit and miss. And now after having watched Violent Night, I'm happy to report it is one Christmas bloody fun violent night. David Harbour as Santa Claus was just like the perfect mixture of a depressed man who's also funny, that is also believable in being a man that you can imagine can kick a lot of butt. Those are some tough qualities to find in actors nowadays, but David Harbour pulled it off. There were so many times in here I did feel bad for him. I was like, man, you're a sad sack of jolliness. But as the movie continued on, it was so easy to root for him, and he was definitely making me laugh a ton throughout here. I'll even say the supporting cast were also enjoyable in their own aspects. They're supposed to be this spoiled, rich, terrible family, but just the bickering back and forth and then their true colors coming out when they're faced with a bunch of people putting guns in their face was actually semi-enjoyable to watch when I was like, why would I want Santa to save this rich, nasty family? Just like, let them go. But that really does come down to the kid character in this movie, Trudy. She also did a fantastic job in this movie and was responsible for one of my favorite sequences of this film, because let me tell you guys, it lives up to its R-rated title. Well, I won't say it's like over-the-top gore and blood just for the sake of having it. It has that John Wick goodness mixed with the Christmas spirit that just is gonna make you go, oh, dang, oh, that hurts. There are moments in here where the movie sets up something you know is going to be extremely painful, and it's one of those things you can't help but to look away from the screen. You're like, oh, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and you're keeping an eye on the screen. I love when movies can pull off sequences like that. You see the danger a mile away, but you are just anticipating the moment it's going to go off. I also love that this movie didn't take itself too seriously. It established some sort of boundary within its fantasy world that it's created, but at the end of the day, it knows this is Santa killing people. We know it's kind of dumb, but it fully leans into that, and although it could get cheesy at times, it was still a whole lot of fun. And I guess even touching more on sort of that Christmas lore aspect, they did add elements in here I wasn't expecting. You get touches of like an origin story for this Santa and like an idea of where he might have come from. And you know, little things like that along with other traditions that Santa is known for, it helps you build that world and make you go, I kind of want to see more of what's happening in this universe with this type of Santa Claus. If I had to talk about some things I wasn't like overly fond of with this movie or just kind of mixed with, although I like John Leguizamo, he was very much a one-dimensional villain. He definitely got me laughing here and there and was entertaining to watch. I guess when it just came down to his motives and hatred of Santa Claus, it was like kind of stereotypical. If you strip away like all the Christmas Santa stuff in this movie, that is literally one of the villains that you've seen in an action movie thousands of times. And I guess even touching on a little bit for that, the whole like premise or intrigue of this movie is that like this is Santa Claus. This is Jolly Saint Old Nick, this legendary immortal being that delivers presents on Christmas. And for like a good majority of the movie, he just almost feels like a regular guy. Like this could have very much been a movie about a guy who dressed up as Santa Claus, works at the mall, and then just ended up at the wrong place at the wrong time having to save this family. They create cliche reasons for why Santa isn't able to use his magic a lot throughout the movie. And I felt like that kind of took away a lot of the fun they could have had with like literally having Santa Claus as your John Wick. But the few sequences you do get in here of him using his magic to fight these guys, pretty awesome and even clever at times. There was also like a slump period where you're like, man, this movie's Violent Night and not a lot of violence is happening. Then he eventually gets a weapon and then just starts going crazy. Still, that didn't take away from the fun I had watching this movie. This is something I could see myself watching over and over other Christmases. And because of some of their world building in here, I wouldn't even be against more movies with David Harbour as this Santa Claus. And look, if you're someone who thinks, I'm only into like the Home Alone type of Christmas movies, they got a Home Alone sequence in this movie. And it's my favorite freaking part of this film. So for Violent Night, I'm gonna give action 4 stars. I had so much fun watching Santa Claus kick a bunch of people's butt. It very much resembled sort of that John Wick fight style. Plus the added in factor of them not holding back on the blood and gore just made it that much more enjoyable for me. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Look, I'm someone who loves cheesy comedy when it's done right and purposeful. So some of the Christmas puns and slapstick comedy got me laughing. I know it's not for everybody though. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. It's really a simple premise. Like I said, you have kind of seen this action formula done thousands of times with other action movies. You just have Santa Claus and a Christmas theme to go along with this time. Horror in the movie, I'll give it 2 stars, and that's just for the sheer amount of blood and violence in this film. It's not something that'll necessarily scare you, but there are a couple of sequences in here that might gross you out and get you a little queasy. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. You still gotta remember, at the end of the day, this is a Christmas movie. It's gonna have that cheery, cheesy, fun vibe. So with that, you kind of know where things are headed, and there's not much suspense. Casual fans, I'm gonna give it a B-. Not everyone in the world's gonna love the idea of a murdering Santa Claus. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a B+. That's mainly because we can accept a murdering Santa Claus and also enjoy the blood and violence going on. And critically, I'm gonna give it a C+. Although it knows it's ridiculous at the end of the day, it is a ridiculous movie with a bunch of ridiculous sequences. I think that's what makes it fun, but also not so elegant. So for Violent Night, I say this is definitely worth watching in theaters. Definitely go check it out if this at all looks appealing to you. I think you'll have a great time. You know what you're getting with a bloody, violent Santa Claus, and I think people will be happy with that. Let me know what you guys thought if you got around to watching Violent Night, if you would like to see more of David Harbour as this Santa Claus, what you liked or didn't like about the film. Love to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, but follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Stay violent.